Hello everybody, this is Refresh and I am here to bring you a battle between these two War of the Spark Planeswalker decks and the Face the Hydra challenge deck from Theros. We will be playing with two hero cards apiece. We will be using the Hunter. It says tap target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And the Harvester, which says tap draw a card then discard a card. And the Warrior, which says tap target creature you control gains haste until end of turn. Because I only have one copy of each of these cards, the Harvester is going to be shared by Gideon's deck and by Jace's deck, so its use will be used simultaneously. But the Hunter will be used by Gideon and the Warrior will be used by Jace. We'll be playing two games, first on normal mode with 3 heads, and then we'll be back for hard mode with 4 heads. We'll start with 7 cards apiece, so Gideon will draw 7. Gideon draws a Gideon's Company, Command the Dreadhorde, Gideon's Company, Plains, Makeshift Battalion, Plains, and Plains. This isn't actually a great hand, however, we do have most of the cards in white, and so even though we don't have black mana, this is a very late game card anyways, so I think we'll keep this one. Jace draws a Pollenbright Druid, a Bloom Hulk, a Guildpact Informant, a Forest, a Jace's Ruse, an Island, and a Forest. This is perhaps the closest thing to an ideal hand that we can get, with all our colors and then things along the curve that we can cast, so we will keep this hand as well. Because this is multiplayer, we'll go ahead and start with drawing a card apiece. So Gideon will draw a Swamp, and Jace will draw a Forest, and then we'll each play a land. We'll play a Plains over here, and we'll play a Forest over here, and then we'll pass to the Hydra, who will play their top card. That card is Torn Between Heads. Tap up to 2 heads. They don't untap during the Hydra's next untap step. Torn Between Heads deals 5 damage to each player. So we'll tap these two. We'll take 5 damage plus another damage from the untapped head to go down to 14 each. Then at the end of the Hydra's turn, we will use the Harvester. We'll tap, and Gideon will draw a Plains, and will promptly discard that Plains. Jace will draw a Guildpact Informant, and he will discard a Forest. And then we'll untap, we'll draw. Gideon draws an Ajani's Pridemate, and Jace draws a Band Together. We will play a Swamp over here. We'll tap both of these and we'll play Ajani's Pridemate. It is a 2/2 Cat Soldier. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Ajani's Pridemate. And then we'll play an Island over here, and we will tap both of these, playing a Pollenbright Druid. It is a 1/1 Elf Druid. When Pollenbright Druid enters the battlefield, choose one, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, or proliferate. We'll go ahead and put the +1/+1 counter on the Pollenbright Druid, which will make it a 2/2. Now, we could attack with the Warrior this turn if we wanted to. However, because we can't actually kill anything yet, we will not attack this turn. We'll hand the turn back off to the Hydra, who will not untap this turn, and will cast the topmost card, which is Disorienting Glower. Players can't cast spells until the Hydra's next turn. We'll put this right here to remind myself not to cast spells, because sometimes I forget. We'll take 1 damage from the untapped head to go to 13 each. And then we will use the Harvester. Gideon will draw a Trusted Pegasus, and will immediately discard the Trusted Pegasus because it's not very useful against the Hydra. And Jace will draw a Band Together, and will immediately discard the Band Together because it's not as useful against these challenge decks. And then we'll untap, and then we'll draw. Gideon will draw a Plains, and Jace will draw an Island. We cannot cast any spells this turn, so we have to keep that in mind. We'll play the Forest, and we'll play the Plains. And then we will go on the attack. Since we cannot cast any spells, we can only use activated abilities, which we don't have any. However, we can use the Hunter to make the Ajani's Pridemate a 3/3 and attack, killing the untapped Hydra head, getting us 2 life apiece to take us back up to 15 each. And we'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There is a new Ravenous Brute head on the battlefield. And then, since we can't cast anything, we will pass the turn to the Hydra. The Hydra will untap. And then they will draw and play their topmost card, which is grown from the stump. Put exactly 2 cards named Hydra head onto the battlefield from the graveyard. If you can't, reveal cards from the top of the Hydra's library until you reveal a head card. put that card onto the battlefield and the rest into the Hydra's graveyard. So we can't, because there's only one in there, so we'll reveal. And we'll reveal a Ravenous Brute head, we'll put it onto the battlefield, put the rest of these in the graveyard. And then we will take 6 damage from the assembled heads to go down to 9 apiece. And then at the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester again. Oh, Disorienting Glower should be in the graveyard as well. And Gideon will draw a Ob Nixilis' Cruelty, and Jace will draw an island. We will discard Ob Nixilis' Cruelty, and we will discard the other band together, and then we'll untap. And then we'll draw. Gideon draws a swamp. Jace draws an island. We'll play the second island, and we'll play the second swamp. Then the next thing we'll do is, with Jace, we will tap 4 mana, and we will cast the Bloom Hulk. It is a 4/4 plant elemental. When Bloom Hulk enters the battlefield, proliferate. And so we will choose to add a counter here to the Pollenbright Druid, making it a 3/3. And we will use the Warrior to give the Bloom Hulk haste. On Jace's side, we will tap 4 mana. And we will play the Gideon's Company, which is a 3/3 human soldier. Whenever you gain life, put 2+1/+1 counters on Gideon's Company. And for 3 and a white, you can put a loyalty counter on target Gideon Planeswalker. What we'll do is we'll use the Hunter to give the Johnny's Pridemate another +1/+1. And then we will attack one of the Ravenous Brute heads with the Bloom Hulk and the Johnny's Pridemate to do 6 damage. And then we'll attack one of the regular Hydra heads with the Pollenbright Druid to do 3 damage. Killing them both, we'll gain 4 life apiece and draw 1 card from the Hero's Reward listed on there, and taking us up to 13 each. And we'll draw a card each. Gideon draws a swamp, Jace draws an island, and then we will reveal 4 cards to see if there are any new heads. There are 2 new heads. We have a Savage Vigor head and a Hydra head. The Savage Vigor head says, at the beginning of the Hydra's end step, reveal the top card of the Hydra's library, and the Hydra casts that card. These will go in the graveyard. And then we can't do anything else, so we will pass the turn to the Hydra. They will cast the topmost card, which says Unified Lunge. It deals X damage to each player, where X is the number of heads on the battlefield. There are 4 heads on the battlefield, so we'll take 4 damage to take us down to 9. And then we will cast another card because of the Savage Vigor head, which is a Hydra head. And then the assembled heads will do 7 damage to take us to 2 each. Yikes! At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester, and that will cause Gideon to draw a Plains. We will immediately discard that Plains. And Jace will draw an island, and we will discard that island. And then we'll untap. And then we'll draw. Gideon draws a Plains. Jace draws a Jace's Triumph. And then we will play a Plains over here, and an island over here. And then because it's kind of an emergency and we need some life right away, we're going to go ahead and spend 5 mana over here to cast Jace's Ruse, which says, it's a sorcery, it says, return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hand. You may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Jace Arcane Strategist, reveal it, and put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. This will target the Savage Vigor head and the Ravenous Brute head, sending them back to the Hydra's hand, which effectively removes them from the battlefield and sends them to the graveyard. We'll gain 6 life from the combined Hero's Reward and draw 2 cards apiece. That will take us up to 8 each. We'll draw 2 cards. Gideon draws a Swamp and a Makeshift Battalion. Jace draws a Spark Double and a Bioessence Hydra. And we also should be searching for Jace himself. There's Jace Arcane Strategist. We'll also put that into our hand. We'll shuffle. And then we'll reveal 4 cards to see if there are any new heads. We have a Shrieking Titan head. It says, at the beginning of the Hydra's end step, each player discards a card. So that's another strong head. And then we'll attack. We will attack the Shrieking Titan head with the Gideon's Company, the Johnny's Pridemate, and the Pollenbright Druid for 8. And we'll attack one of the regular Hydra heads with the Bloom Hulk for 4. That will kill these 2. We'll gain 6 life and draw 1 card, taking us up to 14. Drawing a card, Gideon draws a Desperate Lunge, and Jace draws a New Horizons. And then we'll reveal 4 cards to see if there are any new heads. There are no new heads. And then we will cast some more spells, I guess. Gideon will spend 4 and cast the Gideon's Company. And Jace cannot cast any more spells. So now we're going to go to our end step, and it looks like both players have too many cards, so we will discard a Plains over here. We will discard the Jace's Triumph over here, and we will discard an island over here. And then we will go to the Hydra's turn. We will cast the topmost card, which is Noxious Hydra Breath. It says choose one. Noxious Hydra Breath deals 5 damage to each player or destroy each tapped non-head creature. We would lose the majority of our board if we took it. So because we have a cushion of life, we'll take 5 damage each, and we'll take another 2 from the Hydra heads to bring us down to 7 each. And then we will use the Harvester at the end of the turn. Gideon draws an Omnicholus's Cruelty, and we'll discard that. Jace draws a Jace's Ruse, which we will keep, and we will discard a Guild Pact Informant. And then we will untap, and we'll draw. Gideon draws a Bond of Discipline, and Jace will draw a Bloom Hulk. And then we'll play the last island over here, and we will play a swamp over here. And then we're going to see if we can just finish this opponent off. So we'll attack with a Pollenbright Druid and the Gideon's Company into the 2 remaining Hydra heads to kill them. That'll get us 4 life apiece, taking us back up to 11. And then we'll reveal 4 cards to see if there are any new heads. And there is 1 new Ravenous Brood head. And then we'll follow up on our second turn by casting Jace, Arcane Strategist over here. This is a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. It says whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. And for +1, you can draw a card. -7, you creatures you control can't be blocked this turn. We're probably never using the -7, so we're just going to be drawing cards. And we'll start with 4 loyalty counters. And then we're going to immediately +1, and we will draw a card. And that is an island. And because we drew a card, we're going to put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature you control. And that'll be the Bloom Hulk. On Gideon's side, we're going to spend 6 mana, and we'll cast both of the Makeshift Battalions. These are 3/2 human soldiers, and it says whenever Makeshift Battalion and at least 2 other creatures attack, put a +1/+1 counter on Makeshift Battalions. So they grow as well. And then we will pass the turn to the Hydra, which will cast the topmost card. That card is a Hydra head. We'll take 3 damage from the 2 heads to go down to 8. And then we will use the Harvester. Gideon draws a swamp, and we'll discard a swamp. Jace draws a forest, and we'll discard the island. And then we'll untap. And then we'll draw. Gideon draws an Orzhov Guildgate. Jace will draw a Kiora Behemoth Beckoner. We will play the forest over here, and we will play a plains over here. And I think we can just kill all these guys. We'll use Gideon's creatures because they can grow. So we'll attack the Ravenous Broodhead with the 2 Makeshift Battalions, and then the Hydra head with the Ajani's Pridemate. And we'll use the Hunter to make the Ajani's Pridemate a 3/3. And because we are attacking with at least 3 creatures, each of these will grow with a +1/+1 counter, and that should defeat both of these, getting us 4 life and letting us draw 1 card. The 4 life will take us to 12 apiece, and we'll draw 1 card. Gideon draws a Trusted Pegasus, and Jace will draw a Guild Pact Informant, and then we'll reveal 4 cards to see if there are any new heads. There is 1 new Hydra head. This is a Hydra that never dies, and then we will go to our second main phase, where we will spend 3 mana and play Kiora Behemoth Beckoner. This is a 7 loyalty Planeswalker. It says whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card, and for -1 you can untap target permanent. Go ahead and put the counters on her. And then with the remaining 4 mana, we'll play another Bloom Hulk, and we will proliferate. And we can target any number of permanents, so we're also going to target Gideon's 2 battalions and make them a little bigger, as well as each of the permanents that we have in play to increase them. And because it has 4 more power, Jace will draw a card, which is a Merfolk Skydiver. And then we will draw another card using Jace's ability, which is an island. And then, because of Jace's ability, and that's the second card we drew this turn, we'll put another counter on the new Bloom Hulk. And then, if that's not enough, we'll spend 3 mana over here and play the Loyal Pegasus. And then we will pass the turn because that's pretty much all we're going to be doing here. The Hydra casts the topmost card, which is a Snapping Fanghead. It says at the beginning of the Hydra's end step, Snapping Fanghead deals 1 damage to each player. So we will be taking 4 damage, taking us all the way back down to 8. And then at the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Gideon will draw a Gideon's Company, and we will discard the Orzhov Guildgate. Jace will draw a Stealth Mission, and we need to discard 2 cards. I just realized we kept the card that we shouldn't have. So we will discard the Stealth Mission, and we will discard the New Horizons. And then we will untap. Then we'll draw, Gideon will draw a Plains. Jace will draw a Ward Scale Crocodile. We'll play this island. We'll play this Plains. And then we'll just try to win here. We're going to attack with both of the makeshift battalions into the Snapping Fanghead, which should be more than enough to kill it. And we'll also attack into the regular Hydra head with the Ajani's Pridemate, again pumped up by the Hunter. And that should be enough to kill both of them. That's going to trigger both of these to grow. That's going to be a total of 12 damage hitting the Snapping Fanghead, and then 3 damage hitting the Hydra head, killing them both, getting us 6 life and letting us draw a card. That will take us up to 14 each. Then Gideon will draw a Vampire Opportunist, and Jace will draw a Courage in Crisis. And then we'll reveal 4 cards to see if there are any new heads. And we finally defeat the Hydra. We'll be back with Hard Mode. Alright, now we're playing Hard Mode. There are 4 Hydra heads assembled. We'll draw 7 cards apiece and hope we survive. Gideon draws an Orzhov Guildgate, Vampire Opportunist, Ajani's Pridemate, Gideon's Battlecry, Trusted Pegasus, Ajani's Pridemate, and Plains. This isn't ideal because we only have 2 lands. However, we have plenty of things that we can play, so we will keep this hand. Jace draws a Forest, a Guildpact Informant, an Island, Jace's Ruse, Island, Palmbright Druid, and Jace's Ruse. This is a little bit low impact, but again, we have things that we can play, and we have all of our colors, so we will keep this hand as well. We'll draw, because it's multiplayer. Gideon draws another Ajani's Pridemate, while Jace draws a Forest. We'll play the Forest over here, and we'll play the Orzhov Guildgate tapped here, and then we'll pass the turn to the Hydra, which will cast the topmost card, which is another Hydra head. There are 5 heads, so we'll take 5 damage apiece, going down to 15. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Gideon will draw a Gideon's Battlecry, and then we will discard the Vampire Opportunist. Jace will draw a Bioessence Hydra, and we will discard the Bioessence Hydra. And then we'll untap, and we'll draw. Gideon draws a Charmed Stray. Jace draws an Island. We will play the Island over here. We'll tap both, and we'll play a Pollenbright Druid. We'll put the +1/+1 counter on the Pollenbright Druid, and then we will play the Plains over here, and we will tap both of these and play 1 Ajani's Pridemate, and then we will pass the turn to the Hydra. They will cast the topmost card, which is a Savage Figurehead, and that's the one that casts another card. So it'll go onto the battlefield. We'll cast another card off of that figurehead, which is players can't cast spells until the Hydra's next turn. And then we'll take 7 damage apiece to go down to 8. We'll put this on top here to remind myself not to cast any spells. We'll use the Harvester at the end of the turn. Gideon will draw a Swamp, and we'll discard the Trusted Pegasus. Jace will draw a Jace's Projection, and we will discard 1 of the islands. And then we'll untap. And then we'll draw. Gideon draws an Ob Nixilis' Cruelty, and Jace will draw a Courage in Crisis. We will play an island over here, and we will play a swamp over here. We cannot cast spells this turn, so we will just have to go in on the attack. We'll use the Hunter to make the Ajani's Pridemate a little bit bigger, and then we will attack 1 of the Hydra heads with Ajani's Pridemate, which will kill it. We will gain 2 life, and then when we gain that life, we will put a counter on the Ajani's Pridemate. We'll gain 2 life, go up to 10 each. And then we'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There is 1 Hydra head to replace the one that went away. And because we have no other things that we can do because of that disorienting glower, we will pass the turn to the Hydra. The Hydra will cast the topmost card, which is Torn Between Heads. Tap up to 2 heads. They don't untap during the Hydra's next untap step. Torn Between Heads, it deals 5 damage to each player. We'll tap the big one and one of the little ones, and then we'll take 5 damage to take us down to 5. And then we'll cast the next card because of this, which is Noxious Hydra Breath. We either have 5 damage dealt to each player, which will kill us, or we destroy each tapped non-head creature. We'll have to destroy the Ajani's Pridemate. And then we'll take 4 damage to take us to 1 apiece. And then we'll use the Harvester. Gideon will draw a Command the Dreadhorde, and then discard the Command the Dreadhorde. And Jace will draw a Ward Scale Crocodile, and we will discard the Ward Scale Crocodile. And then we'll untap. Gideon will draw a Charmed Stray. Jace will draw a Guild Pact Informant. We'll play the Forest over here. We have no lands to play over here. We need to get a lot of life in a hurry. So I think the best thing that we can actually do is to cast Jace's Projection. This is a 2/2 Wizard Illusion. Whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Jace's Projection. For 3 and a blue, put a loyalty counter on target Jace Planeswalker. So that gets us 4 power right now. And then we will attack into the Savage Figurehead because the possibility that it casts 2 has the greatest chance of killing us. And then we'll tap 3 here to cast Ob Nixilis' Cruelty. Oh, we'll use the Warrior to give this haste so that we can attack. And then we'll cast Ob Nixilis' Cruelty on the Snapping Fang head to make it a 0/3, which will kill the Savage Figurehead. And we'll gain 4 life and draw a card, taking us back up to 5. Gideon draws a Plains, and Jace draws an island. We'll play the Plains over here. And because we drew a card, we'll put a counter on the Jace's Projection. And then over here, we will tap and cast a Charmed Stray. We'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads, and there are none. And we don't have anything else that we can do because we're kind of tapped out, and we'll see if we survive. This doesn't untap this turn, but we will play the topmost card, which is Hydra's Impenetrable Hide. Each head gains indestructible until the end of the Hydra's next turn, so they can't be destroyed. We'll take 4 damage again to go all the way back down to 1, so we survive. The Harvester will be used. Gideon will draw a Plains, and Jace will draw a Primordial Worm. We will discard the Primordial Worm, and we will discard 1 of the Gideon's Battle Cries. And then we will untap, and we'll draw. Gideon draws a Swamp. We'll play the Plains, and we'll play the Island. We cannot destroy any heads this turn because they're indestructible. However, it does not say that we can't gain life from attacking with the Charmed Stray, nor does it say that we can't use Jace's Ruse to send a couple of them back to their hand, so we might be able to survive this. The first thing I want to do is I want to cast both of these Ajani's Pridemates, because we're going to be gaining life, so we might as well grow them. And then I also want to cast this Charmed Stray, because this 1/1 cat has lifelink, and when Charmed Stray enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control named Charmed Stray, and there is one, so we'll put a counter on it. That'll get us even more life. And then we will cast Jace's Ruse for 5 mana, and we'll return these 2 heads to the Hydra's hand, removing them from the battlefield and therefore from the game. We'll gain 4 life apiece to take us back up to 5. And because we gain life, the 2 Pridemates will gain counters as well. We'll reveal 4 cards to see if there are any new heads. There are 2 new heads. And I think this is going to be the end of us. Except that we can attack with the 1 Charmed Stray, and we'll pump it with the Hunter to give it 1 more, so we'll do 3 damage. It doesn't matter because they're indestructible, but we'll gain 3 life to go up to 8. And because we gain life, these will grow, and it's possible that Gideon will survive this. I don't think Jace will. Alright, we'll go to the Hydra's turn. They'll untap, and then they'll cast the topmost card, which is grown from the stump. We'll put exactly 2 cards named Hydra Head onto the battlefield from the Hydra's graveyard, and if you can't reveal cards from the top, well, we can. There's 2. And I think that this is the end of us because we are going to be taking 8 damage apiece, defeating us. And that was rough. We lose to the Hydra in hard mode. They played a pretty good game here. Yikes. Let me know what you thought about these games in the comments below. If you saw any rules and or gameplay errors aside from missing some of the Ajani's Pridemate pumps that should have happened in that first game, let me know so that I can be more mindful in the future. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more such videos, hit subscribe. Next time I'll be taking these 2 Planeswalker decks up against the Battle of the Horde challenge deck from Born of the Gods. Until then, this was Refresh, and thank you for watching.